PM Modi has kick-started his 5-nation tour and is currently in Ghana. Now, this marks his first bilateral visit to the country. Meanwhile, India and Ghana inked 4 agreements following talks between PM Modi and Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. Now, PM Modi also delivered a strong anti-terror message. Listen into what the PM said, followed by my colleague Mohammad Ghazali, who breaks down the very importance of this visit by PM Modi.
अब एक मत है कि आतंकवाद मानवता का दुश्मन है। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हमारी लड़ाई में सहयोग के लिए हम गाना का आभार प्रकट करते हैं। इस संदर्भ में हमने काउंटर टेररिज्म में आपसी सहयोग को और मजबूत करने का निर्णय किया है। यूएन रिफॉर्म्स को लेकर हमारा दृष्टिकोण एक जैसा है। पश्चिम एशिया और यूरोप में चल रहे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को लेकर हम दोनों ने गहरी चिंता व्यक्त की है। हमारा मानना है कि युद्ध का युग नहीं है। डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी से ही समस्या का समाधान होना चाहिए।
These foreign visits, most of these countries are such where no Indian Prime Minister in the past has made a visit. And in Ghana, in the last 3 decades, no other Indian Prime Minister has ever paid the visit. This particular visit is significant considering the fact that Indian Prime Minister has announced that how India and Ghana will have deeper ties when it comes to trade and also in new sort of sectors like energy sector, critical minerals. And also, Prime Minister also sent out a message from the African region that how terrorism is something which every nation should oppose, while he went on to claim that this is not an era of war. So whether it was the issue of conflict in Middle East and Europe, as well as the issue of terror, Prime Minister sending out a tough message from the African region. It is so that Prime Minister spoke about it is to counter the Chinese influence in the region, and that is why this visit is very significant.
At a time when PM Modi sent out a strong message against terror in Ghana, Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar gave out a similar message in the US. Now, he said that all countries need to, in fact, speak in one voice against terrorism. Now, this comes as he met with FBI Chief Kash Patel and US Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Listen in.
It is a fact that countries, often countries do not take a position when some other country is a victim of terrorism, which they would do when they themselves are. We have, in that respect, honestly been much more consistent and principled. That we have, when terrorist incidents, attacks happen elsewhere, outside India, we have largely followed the same position that we have taken when they have happened in India. So, if is your point that others not doing it, my answer to you is yes, you are right. Many of them are not doing it or not doing it sufficiently enough. And part of diplomacy is to exhort them, encourage them, persuade them, motivate them to do that.
Viewers, our sources are indicating that an interim trade deal between India and the United States is likely to be finalized within the next 48 hours. That's correct. India's trade team extended its stay in Washington just last week to iron out key differences that still exist. Now, this comes as the two sides look to clinch a mini deal before the July 9 deadline, when the pause on US tariffs is set to be lifted. Now, both sides have dug in their heels over a number of issues. Now, these include Washington's demand that India open its market to genetically modified crops. It's a long-standing red line for New Delhi due to the risks to, in fact, its farmers. The US, meanwhile, is also pressing for greater market access to the Indian agricultural and dairy sectors. However, sources told NDTV that both these sectors are likely to be kept out of the purview of the proposed deal due to concerns over rural livelihoods and also, more importantly, food safety. India, on the other hand, is reportedly pushing for meaningful tariff concessions on its labor-intensive exports like footwear, garments, and even leather, which are major and remain, in fact, major job creations. Here's more.
Not just in the US, but in India also, we can expect 4th of July cracker works and fireworks to go in, given that an interim trade deal is very much possible in the next 48 hours. This is what we're picking up from official sources. Just like the deal that was announced between the US and Vietnam yesterday, we can expect something on similar lines, given the fact that that deal was also broadly about tariff cuts and the removal, or the reduction of the reciprocal tariffs that the Trump administration had imposed. So that is something that we can expect from this mini or interim trade deal that is about to come. What we can also expect is that there will probably be no mention of agri or dairy produce, something that has been a major red line for India so far. That is not something that will probably feature in this interim trade deal that will come out in the next 48 hours ahead of this July 9 tariff pause deadline that we've seen coming. What we're also not expecting is that sectoral tariffs on steel, auto components, as well as aluminium will also probably remain untouched, because that has also been the scene in this US-Vietnam trade deal that came out late last night. So that is what we've been hearing from Trump. There has been repeatedly bullish, positive commentary. The Indian team is also in Washington for negotiations still, and we're hopeful for a deal in the next 48 hours.
India has voiced deep concern over the abduction of 3 of its nationals in Mali. It's a country grappling with a fresh wave of terrorist attacks. In fact, the Ministry of External Affairs has also said that the Indian workers employed at the diamond cement factory in Case were taken hostage during a coordinated armed assault on the factory premises on the 1st of July. Now, it's a day after the incident. India formally called upon the Mali government to take all necessary measures, in fact, to ensure their safe and expeditious release. Now, the MEA said, and I quote here, the incident occurred on July 1, when a group of armed assailants carried out coordinated attack at the factory premises and forcibly took 3 Indian nationals as hostages. Though in the US, the Pentagon has collected intelligence material that suggests Iran's nuclear program was set back roughly 1 to 2 years as a result of the US strikes on 3 key facilities only last month. Now, the spokesperson, Sean Parnell, repeated Donald Trump's claim that Iran's key nuclear sites had been, in fact, completely destroyed. This is what he said, although he did not offer further details on the origin of assessments beyond saying it came from inside the Defense Department. Here's what he said.
Our assessment of the battle damage around Fordow, Nantes, and Isfahan remains unchanged. I mean, we believe, and certainly all of the intelligence that we've seen have led us to believe that those facilities especially have been completely obliterated. The interesting kind of side point about this, Tara, is that all of the conversations that we've had since Operation Midnight Hammer with our allies all around the world, but certainly also in the region, they say a couple of things. They share our sentiments about, the degradation of Iran's nuclear program and the fact that we have degraded their program by 1 to 2 years. At least the intel assessments inside the department assess that, and I think their intelligence shares that conclusion.
Now we shift our focus to West Asia now and the ongoing Israel-Hamas ceasefire proposal talks. Now, latest Western media reports, viewers indicate that Hamas won't hold hostage handover ceremonies during Gaza ceasefire as part of the hostage release and Gaza ceasefire deal being negotiated. Hamas has in fact said it would not hold public ceremonies while freeing captives, as we've seen multiple times in the past the terror group doing till now. Now, reports also note that the proposal being discussed would see the return of 10 living hostages and the remains of 18 captives to Israel, while Hamas releasing them on 5 separate occasions over the 60-day proposed truce. And China's Shandong aircraft carrier arrived in Hong Kong for the first time on Thursday. That's correct. The Shandong sailed in alongside its battle group, which also includes the Navy's Yan'an and the Xinjiang guided missile destroyers, and even the Yucheng guided missile frigate. Now, the carrier is due to stay in Hong Kong until Monday next week and will be open to the first public for ticketed tours during the weekend. The Shandong, for perspective, is one of the Chinese Navy's 3 aircraft carriers. Viewers, last month itself, it saw the first time 2 of the ships had operated together, in fact, in the Indo-Pacific. Meanwhile, authorities say 7 people are missing following an explosion at a fireworks warehouse in rural Northern California that in fact also caused a massive fire, as you see on your screens right there. Now, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection says that the emergency crews and investigators are working with the property's owners and monitoring the area using drones to find out the individuals and their whereabouts. Meanwhile, it's not immediately clear if those missing worked at the warehouse or lived nearby the premises where the massive explosion in fact took place. Now, people were urged to avoid the area for several days following the blast, which also set off a barrage of fireworks and caused a huge blaze that led to other spot fires and collapsed the building in the farming community northwest of Sacramento. At least 4 people have died and dozens are missing after a ferry sank off Indonesia's tourist island of Bali, rescuers have said. Now, the boat was carrying 53 passengers and 12 crew when it sank while on its way to Bali from Banyuwangi on the eastern coast, in fact, of the Java island. 29 survivors have been rescued as the search still continues as we get to this broadcast, viewers. Meanwhile, authorities are investigating the cause of the sinking. The ferry operator has told local media that the vessel had reported engine trouble shortly before it sank. Here's more.
Jadi bersamaan sama anunya, jadi tidak begitu melompat.
Karena sudah dekat air.
Akhirnya mungkin ya umpama agak jauh ya tidak ikut apa gelap kan, air kan ikut ke dalam. Ya mungkin dalamnya aja 7 meter, saya juga kenaan itu. Kenangnya saya ketemu kawan berdua gitu. Jadi saya gabung. Terus ketemu lagi jatuh ya gabung. Jadi 4 orang 4 pelampung, cuma pelampung gini 4 orang. Jadi sampai pagi tadi 4 orang cuma yang 1 meninggal.
Jadi berempat itu.
Nah, jadi yang 1 meninggal, yang 3 sehat.
A small skydiving plane went off the end of a runway at an airport in southern New Jersey and crashed in a wooded area with at least 15 people on board on Wednesday evening. All 15 people on board the aircraft were taken to hospital following the crash, after the crash, which took place at the Cross Keys Airport. It's situated 34 kilometers southeast of Philadelphia. Meanwhile, the FAA said that the incident is under investigation. Aerial footage, meanwhile, of the crash site showed the plane damaged into several pieces of debris in a wooded area. Moreover, fire trucks and emergency vehicles surrounded the crash site, as you see on your screens right now. Shifting focus to India, where just a day after the Dalai Lama's subtle snub to China, in which he revealed that his institution will continue and that only his trust holds the authority to choose his successor, Minority Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju is set to visit Dharamsala tomorrow. Officials have clarified that the minister's visit is purely religious in nature and holds no political agenda whatsoever. Meanwhile, India has echoed the Dalai Lama's assertion regarding the succession process. Minister Rijiju stated, and I'm quoting him here, "No one else has the right to decide on the Dalai Lama's successor. Only the Dalai Lama himself can do that, and his followers around the world believe this deeply."